Listen, I wanted to get our next guest on during the holiday break, but I think she had just a fantastic holiday on her own. Her first holiday being married to her lovely husband. Alex Wilkes, the executive director of America's Rising PAC. Good morning. Happy Saturday to you and Happy New Year.
Good morning. Happy New Year.
So let's start here, Alex. Third week of the shutdown. Is there any end in sight?
I'm not entirely sure because, Democratic leaders seem unwilling to really budge on anything. They refuse to even concede, even just a little bit for border security. And, the president, I don't think, is going to go back on this because of the promises that he made to his base during the election.
Well, let me ask you this, because I've got this theory that's going, and I think you're right. I don't see any end in sight to this, at least not anytime soon. But my theory is that now that the Democrats have taken over, and you had Rashida Tlaib's screed the other day, you had the Democrats sort of setting up their agenda, their so-called transparency agenda, but we now have Brad Sherman introducing articles of impeachment. You've got another rep introducing resolution to get rid of the Electoral College. I mean, we've seen the agenda that's coming out. And so my theory is that the Democrats are going to try to use oversight and investigation as a cudgel against this president to try to get him to bend to their will. Am I off here?
No, I don't think you're off at all. And I think that despite the promises that the more moderate Democrats were making in swing districts throughout the 2018 elections, that they were there to run on, positive issues like health care, the real agenda was more of a vindictive one against President Trump and Republicans, that they were looking to use, oversight power in order to sort of hold their feet to the fire. But, I don't think that that's a long-term strategy that's at all positive for the Democrats, because we know that the majority majority of Americans don't support impeachment. And I think that a long, protracted battle on that issue is not really within their interests, certainly from a media standpoint.
My guest is Alex Wilkes. She's the executive director of America's Rising PAC. We'll put up the link on the Andrew Langer Show page on Facebook. Alex, let me ask you this. So you're right. Obviously they've got this priority. Do the Democrats really think that increasing the top marginal tax rate to either 70 or even 84%, as our friends at Americans for Tax Reform are saying, engaging in this so-called green revolution, this cronyist green revolution, do they really think that that's what the American people want? That's their priority?
Well, that's what I hope Republicans will focus on. Look, I think that that's the plan that you're, of course, talking about, that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez proposed, and I hope that our fellow conservatives will focus on those ideas rather than any kind of videos or statements from her past from college. This is really the heart of what she's proposing to do as a legislator, and I think that it's alarming, to suggest that any American would have to pay nearly 2/3 of their income to the federal government, and so. Look, the Democrats that are coming in, like I said, I think Nancy Pelosi, she put on a good show throughout the midterms, and when they initially won, we're going to be, we're going to be cohesive and streamlined and measured, and now sort of the wheels are coming off the wagon. Like you have Rashida Tlaib coming out and saying we're going to impeach the mother effer. You have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez coming out and saying we're going to tax Americans up to 70%. We're gonna, we have articles of impeachment being introduced. I don't think Nancy Pelosi has quite the lasso around her caucus that she maybe thought she did.
let's talk about this because apart from missing sound bites at the beginning of the show, I was talking about the changeover in 2006 to 2010 and then the 2011 changeover in terms of House leadership. Let's focus really on the House for right now because that's where we are. Certainly we had, Speaker Boehner and then Speaker Ryan. They had problems reining in certain members of, my compadres in the Tea Party caucus, the Freedom Caucus, the Republican Study Committee, et cetera. I mean, really, are we seeing the flip side to that here with the Democrats?
I think so. Look, I think it's difficult for any speaker to have perfect control over the caucus, and particularly in today's environment. I mean, it doesn't really do anything, for certain members to sort of play along and to make deals. I think that the way that our media is structured and the way that money is raised now for campaigns is, built towards polarization. It's meant that it's meant to feed the extremes, and so I think that it's much better for a Rashida Tlaib to get a couple thousand in small dollar donations based on an extreme statement, rather than to reach across the aisle and to actually try to make deals. Because look, I think that from a Democratic standpoint, there are deals that could be made with this president. We know that President Trump would look very favorable on something like infrastructure spending. A really good example is the Gateway Tunnel in New Jersey and New York. The president's home state. I had read recently that there was a plan floated. I don't know how serious it was, but there was a plan floated to maybe trade gateway funding for wall funding. And gateway funding is a very, very important issue to the congressmen and to the senators up here. And Senator Robert Menendez, our favorite ethical senator here in New Jersey, threw cold water on it immediately and said no, which it was pretty striking considering just how critical those dollars are seen up here.
Yeah,
but I think goes to illustrate how how this is really a partisan battle rather than a battle of ideas.
No, it's interesting because I wound up going back and forth with a high school friend of mine this week. Asked me to comment on David Brooks's piece in the New York Times. I don't know if you saw this, Alex, and we're talking with Alex Wilkes. She's the executive director of America's Rising PAC. David Brooks wrote a piece in which he talked about the upcoming hyperpartisanship, and I'm not entirely certain. Obviously, it's going to be hyperpartisan. He was talking about unprecedented levels of hyperpartisanship. And I don't think it's unprecedented because, after all, we fought a civil war in America. But the thesis started with a lengthy discussion about a wedding party in Russia, a sleigh ride across the snow with a wedding party being attacked by wolves, as though the wolves were the Trump supporters and the sleigh ride is the sleigh passengers were the average American people. That's just not helpful, is it?
No,
hyperbole like that.
Sorry, I mean, I think that the left has often engaged in these hyperbolic attacks. Even before President Trump. I mean, I think that we can all recall a time where, now Senator Mitt Romney was considered too extreme to be president. I think that after the 2016 elections, you had some Democrats wishing that it was President Romney over President Trump. And so, I think that they have really, pushed the envelope for a long time. I was reminded of this over the holiday break when I went to go see the movie Vice,
yes.
and which sort of told the story of the Bush presidency in a very, very negative light. And I had remembered the viciousness with which the media attacked President Bush during that time, the same President Bush that they look glowingly upon now as he passes Michelle Obama cough drops at funerals. So, there's definitely, I think that, the Democrats have, have been using these tactics for some time. And I think that what happened in 2016 was that the American people were tired of them crying wolf.
Let me ask you this, Alex, and again, guest Alex Wilkes from America's Rising Pack. Vice saw it as well. Once again, it was attempting to reduce conservative governance to psychodrama, which it seems to be that this is what the left does. But the best part of the movie, Christian Bale as Dick Cheney looking out at the audience and giving his sort of monologue at the end about how he's going to be unapologetic for working hard to protect this nation. I thought that was the best part of the movie. What did you think?
Well, I thought so too. Again, like I said, I can't even. I'm not sure if you had the same experience too, but I really just couldn't help but remember, what it was like to be a Republican during that time. To feel constantly under siege from Democrats who were
George W. Bush was the smirking chimp. This was he was the idiot smirking chimp in office.
He was either an idiot or he lied in order to kill, thousands of U.S. soldiers. I mean,
yes.
There was just, there was no reasoning with people, liberals, I should say, during that time.
Absolutely.
And I think, yes.
No, Alice, I just was going to say, how do folks find out more about America Rising Pack?
They can go to americarisingpack.org.
Go. We'll put the link up on the Andrew Langer Show page. I hate to let you go, but fortunately, we got to let you go. Alex Wilkes from America Rising Pack, really appreciate you joining us this morning. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. Thanks so much for having me on. Anytime.
You're welcome.